Gaurav Sawant now joins us live. He's reporting from the war zone since the start. In fact, even before the war even began. Gaurav, I'm throwing straight across to you. We showed our viewers the defining images and so many. And the human cost of the war is what comes out of each of these defining images. What has been the plight of the people in Ukraine now? In fact, Biden has even wanted to try Putin for the war crimes. At the moment, in terms of the people of Ukraine, what is going on?
Chetty, people here are shattered. Their lives are shattered. Homes devastated. We visited Irpin. India Today has reported from ground zero in Irpin, in Bucha, and the interiors of Bucha, where entire buildings have been shelled, homes destroyed. Heartbreaking reports of people having to bury their loved ones, including young children, in their own backyard because of the intense fighting. They could not even get to the cemetery for those 40 days of this intense battle. And people are traumatized. When we were in Bucha yesterday and day before, both days, we spoke to not just civilians in that area, but also the Ukrainian army and doctors. And now psychologists are being sent there because of this post-traumatic stress disorder that people are suffering. It'll take a very long time for them to recover. In 21st century Europe, can we even imagine tanks in front of their houses, and not just tanks rolling down their houses, but firing, intense shelling happening hour after hour, day after day for weeks, all together, with homes, buildings, their lives completely destroyed, the neighborhood supermarket destroyed, hospital destroyed, schools destroyed. So that is what we've seen on ground, and intense fighting from both sides. Also, the trauma of seeing bodies on the road, literally strewn across a vast area. That is what India Today witnessed in Bucha. So as of now, those areas are being sealed off because there is also a lot of unexploded cargo. That report that we sent, unexploded bombs, cluster bombs, according to the Ukrainian army, that were used, airburst shells used in this area, an indication that the aim was to cause maximum damage. The unexploded bombs are like all over, whether it's in a playground, in a school, in a residential building. All of that ammunition will have to be diffused or detonated or destroyed, and only then will that area be sanitized or clear for residents to once again move back before houses are restored. So that's the trauma people here are undergoing. As far as the political aspect or the diplomatic aspect is concerned,
trauma, Gaurav, you're bringing us that unimaginable trauma, and those visuals are really shocking the entire world of the kind of barbary that is going on right there. And just look at those visuals, and they're just very, very disturbing, to say the least. Gaurav, as far as resolution is concerned, I know we've been speaking about this for quite some time now. Where do things stand? Because 41st day and things do not change.
In fact, God forbid, it could take a turn for the worse in the coming weeks, especially towards the east and the south of this country. In Mariupol, Russia has just issued a warning about an hour ago, is what Ukrainian army officers are telling us. They've asked the security forces, the Ukraine army, the militia, and especially this Azov battalion, considered as neo-Nazis. They've asked them to give up their arms and leave Mariupol in the next couple of hours. They'll be permitted to leave with their lives. That's the literal translation from Russian, is what a Ukrainian army officer was telling me just an hour back. Or there will be intense fighting and shelling in Mariupol. So towards the east and south of this country, there are missile attacks that are still taking place. Rocket attacks are still taking place. There were air raid sirens in Kyiv, where we are right now. There were air raid sirens even in Lviv. So the indication is that the next phase of war could be perhaps even more brutal than what we've witnessed in Irpin and Bucha as Russia consolidates its hold along the Donbass region, and especially for the control of Mariupol. Russians say they're in control of almost 90% of Mariupol, with some pockets of resistance that remain, and those pockets of resistance is what they want to neutralize. Russia wants to neutralize. Ukraine, incidentally, Chaiti, the Ukraine army is also consolidating around that region for the fight back. They're not giving up, and they're saying that we are not just fighting a defensive war like we were around Kyiv. Now it's an offensive battle that they want to fight to retake territory towards the south and the east of this country, Cheti.
You know, as Zelensky has warned of worse Russian atrocities, like you were also mentioning, he's going to be addressing the UN Security Council today. But do you think anything is coming out of it? Because despite all these hectic parleys that have been going on, there has been no ceasefire whatsoever. And from what you're saying, things could just get worse, if not better.
So sanctions are not working is what President Zelensky and the government of Ukraine have mentioned, that so far whatever sanctions have been imposed have not deterred Russia. Several countries in Europe have said that they cannot stop taking oil and gas from Russia. On the contrary, because of the discounted prices, several countries have actually increased the gas and oil that they take from Russia in the past month, after the conflict started. And this is something that shows the dependence on Russian energy, Europe's dependence on Russian energy. If they want to cut that off, what's the alternate, and whether it's even affordable. So the economics plays a big role here, and President Zelensky has repeatedly asked for that. Even when he addressed the Grammys award ceremony, he addressed the world through those award ceremonies. That's exactly what he said. He said we want the world to stand with us. They want Russia to stand trial for what they say are war crimes committed in Irpin and Bucha, and especially in Bucha, a charge that Russia has denied. President Biden's called President Putin a war criminal. But all of these are words. When it comes to action, will Ukraine get the offensive weapons that President Zelensky seeks, including the S-300 systems and fighter jets and tanks? There have been massive losses as far as military hardware is concerned. How will that, be those shortages? How will they be recovered? There is still no bigger game plan or roadmap for that to happen. And when West is targeted, as in the western part of Ukraine is targeted, where will supplies come in from? Several questions remain unanswered, because President Zelensky and Ukraine, they're actually fighting this war with their back to the wall.
Absolutely. Gaurav, you stay safe. Gaurav Sawant reporting live from the eye of the storm right there in the war zone. For now, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. Global outrage over civilian killings in Bucha. Ukraine has accused Russia of war crimes in Kiev suburbs. Ukrainian President Zelensky termed the killings a genocide. Moscow has called Ukraine's version of Bucha killings a fake attack. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has sought a war crime trial against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Here is more on that story.
On the streets, inside houses, in the fields, when Russian forces retreated from Bucha, a Kyiv suburb, bodies of civilians were found strewn across the landscape. Many of them had their hands tied. Since the withdrawal, horrific images of mass grave sites have emerged. The footage from Bucha has sent shockwaves across the world. Ukraine has accused Russia of war crimes. As outrage builds over war atrocities, Moscow has termed the killings on Kyiv's outskirts a fake attack.
The other day, a fake news about an attack in Bucha was doing the rounds. But the Russian army had left the place according to the agreement. A few days later, a fake stage video was spread through social media by Ukraine and the West.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday visited the town and met with the residents. He called the killings a genocide.
It's war crime that will be recognized as genocide by the world. You are here and you will see what has happened. We know about thousands of killed and tortured people with cut limbs, about raped women and killed children. I think it's more than genocide.
Reacting to the images of dead bodies in Bucha, US President Joe Biden once again called Vladimir Putin a war criminal.
You may remember I got criticized for calling Putin a war criminal. Well, the truth of the matter is so what happened in Bucha. This warrants him, he is a war criminal. But we have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial. This guy is brutal. And what's happening in Bucha is outrageous. And everyone's seen it.
Germany, which was accused of being soft on Russia due to its dependence on Moscow for gas supply, has also called the killings a war crime.
The images of the past weekend have once again highlighted a new, brutal dimension of this war, with the most serious war crimes and crime against humanity. And that is why I made it clear over the weekend that we must not only close the remaining loopholes in the sanctions system, but that we must also intensively and rigorously implement this package.
As per international law, civilians cannot be deliberately attacked in a war. Pictures coming from Bucha are appalling and clearly show the violation of the code. But indicting Putin for alleged war crimes is easier said than done. This leads to another question. Are economic sanctions the counter to Putin's alleged atrocities in Ukraine? With Gaurav Sawant in Kyiv, Bureau Report, India Today.
The West is clamoring to try Russia for genocide after these horrific images emerged from Bucha. Till a few weeks ago, Bucha was a thriving suburb of Kiev. It was known for its peaceful, green surroundings. It is now unrecognizable. You can see that on your screens. Take a look at this report.
In diesen Stunden erreichen uns furchtbare und grauenerregende Aufnahmen aus der Ukraine. Wir sehen Dutzende erschossene Zivilisten in Bucha, ein Gebiet nördlich von Kiew.
Bucha, a tiny city on the outskirts of Kyiv, has become the site of the most barbaric Russian action in the 40-day war. Russian forces have left a trail of death and destruction as it retreated from the area. The massacre of innocents has shocked the world. Before the Russian invasion, Bucha was a thriving town of 37,000 people. Because of its strategic location close to the capital and the Kyiv-Kovel railway line built in 1898, it was a booming town economically. Many of them are now dead, murdered in a war that Russia claims is to right everything that is wrong in Ukraine. On 2nd April, Ukrainian troops moved further north of the capital Kyiv, taking up positions in the town of Bucha after retaking territory from Russian forces. And this is what they found.
Those people were just walking and they shot them without any reason. Bang. In the next neighborhood, Stekolka, it was even worse. They would shoot without asking any questions.
There were others found crushed inside their cars by the Russian army.
He was a resident. He worked in landscaping. A peaceful, honest person. A smart man who loved to work. And this simply crushed him to death.
Russia has denied the killings, but Bucha bears the brutal marks of Russia's brutality. The United Nations has launched an independent probe into the massacre in Bucha. The West says the horrors committed in the city could lead to more sanctions against Russia. Bureau Report, India Today.
Ukraine is a beautiful country filled with bustling cities and several tourist sites. Once it used to be brimming with life in urban settlements, now it has been reduced to rubbles. Here's some before and after images of towns that are now either in ruins or have become ghost towns. Before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Mariupol was the country's 10th largest city. Bustling modern metropolis filled with arts and culture. More than a month into the war, Mariupol has now been left decimated, as shown in the images from the port city that document the large-scale destruction caused by Moscow's ongoing assault. Irpin is the strategic city providing northwestern access to Ukraine's capital, Kiev. The left of your screens is what the lovely city looked like before the war. Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, several high-rise buildings, including the malls, public and residential buildings, are now in shambles. The city of Odessa now, home to more than 1 million Ukrainian residents, is a city filled with industries from shipbuilding to oil refining and chemicals and food processing. Images to the right of your screens are capturing an oil depot on fire. A gush of black smoke is seen emerging out of the depot.